Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and we've got some good old-fashioned beef going into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers divisional round matchup versus the Detroit Lions. As you guys can see here at the top of the article, the headline is Baker Mayfield responds to line defensive backs Barb studies some film. And this was written by Jenna Lane of ESPN. A defensive back on the Detroit Lions came out with a quote actually leading up to the LA Rams game. This wasn't even leading up to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, but it was still a jab at Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield responded. Who's the defensive back on the Detroit Lions? Well, it is a player that Bucs fans are very familiar with. Is Chauncy Gardner-Johnson, who had the barb about Baker Mayfield. When asked about preparing for the Rams last week, this is what Chauncy Gardner-Johnson said. This is in reference to the Rams, by the way. This group is probably one of the better groups we done faced all year. Now, that is in reference to the Rams wide receiver room. Then Chauncey Gardner goes on to say, besides that Tampa group, if you give that Tampa group a good quarterback, that's a great group. Evans, Godwin, Russell Gage, that's a great group. I played against them for real. Now, Mayfield responded on Wednesday and said, I don't think he's really watched film because he mentioned Russell Gage. We love Russell, but Russell hasn't played a snap for us all year. That is very accurate. Russell Gage did suffer a injury and was out for the entirety of the year. Baker Mayfield goes on to say he must be going off of preseason stuff that the media was talking about. I'm excited to see him. I think he's a really good player. He has been for a while. He's been an impactful guy in every team he's been on. So he's a good player, but yeah, just do a little bit more film study. Very accurate. Very accurate. Again, to mention Russell Gage is just not accurate for Mr. Chauncy Gardner-Johnson, considering that, again, to Baker Mayfield's point, Russell Gage hasn't played a single snap for the Buccaneers this year. So fine in mentioning Mike Evans, fine in mentioning Chris Godwin, but Baker Mayfield has a point. Yeah, Russell Gage or Chauncy Gardner-Johnson must not be paying that much close of attention because he hasn't played all year. But even to go farther to say, if the Bucs had a great quarterback, or had a good quarterback, they'd be even great. I want to compare stats between Baker Mayfield and the Detroit Lions quarterback, Jared Goff, because I don't think one guy is bad. I think they both have good quarterbacks, and I just want to compare. So you take a look this year at Jared Goff. He had 605 passing attempts, 4,575 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Take a look at Baker Mayfield this year. He had 566 attempts, 4,044 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, to 10 interceptions. I think it's safe to say that if you gave Baker Mayfield that 40 other attempts that Jared Goff had, he would have just as good, if not possibly better stats, very comparable stats to what Jared Goff has. And Jared Goff has been making waves. Both of these guys have been making waves in terms of being the quarterbacks for their respective teams. Both guys are players who I've talked about, both them being down and out type of quarterbacks. A lot of people viewed them as bridge quarterbacks, and now both have had career renaissances with their respective teams. That is just the fact of the matter. That is the situation. So to say that Baker Mayfield's not a good quarterback, I don't think is accurate. And some people may disagree with me. There may be still some people out there who doubt Baker Mayfield, and look, that is what it is. But what has Baker Mayfield proven this year? He's proven that he can limit turning over the ball. Again, 10 interceptions is pretty darn good. He proved that he can throw for 4,000 passing yards and 28 touchdowns, both of which are career highs for him. He's proven that he can win a division, go to the playoffs, and win a playoff game with the first year on his new team. That is all incredibly impressive stuff. So to say that Baker Mayfield isn't a good quarterback, look, I simply don't think is accurate. But, I like it. I like it's fine. It's a jab, it's a barb, whatever you want to call it. It's the type of thing that happens, especially with Chauncy Gardner-Johnson, who only started, who only played in 3 games, started 2 this year because Chauncy Gardner-Johnson was injured throughout most of the year. I like it because that just gives more motivation, right? I mean, that's not, the Buccaneers are not going to shirk and fall away just because Chauncy Gardner-Johnson gave a jab to Bucs quarterback Baker Mayfield. Baker gave a jab right back, but it was also like a friendly jab. It was like, hey, he's a great player, but you should probably watch some film more because Russell Gage has not played a single snap for us this year. So kind of clowned him a little bit also, but I like that. I don't think that there was super bad intentions there, be it one way or the other. It's just a jab. It is getting in the head of competitors, It is what it is, right? I mean, it's so funny that Chauncy Gardner-Johnson played for the Saints. I was talking to Evan Wanish of the Cannon Fire podcast earlier today, and he said, hey, once a Saint, always a Saint. I said, hey, you can take Chauncy Gardner-Johnson away from the Saints, but you can't take the Saint out of Chauncy Gardner-Johnson. I mean, that's just the honest to goodness truth, folks. In this, Chauncy Gardner-Johnson does stuff like this all the time. He's always trying to get into opponents' heads. This one doesn't bother me too much just because it's not accurate. I mean, it's not. It really isn't. It was like the same thing whenever Cam Jordan said the Bucs were going to go back to being the Bucs. They won the division, made it to the playoffs, and I think they asked Cam Jordan after that, and he said, "Oh wow, the Bucs beat the Panthers by 9 and won the division. Then they went on to win a playoff game." So hey, I mean, if the Bucs are going to live rent free in these guys' heads, it's fine. I mean, that's completely fine. I mean, that's more so a thing on them. I let them trash talk all they want. The Bucs are going to be focused on winning some football games. So it is what it is. This particular jab doesn't bother me. I think it's fun, friendly banter. Chauncy Gardner had a bit of a jab that was kind of unnecessary, really, and then Baker responded in part, and gave him a jab of his own, which was a funnier jab in my opinion, to say, hey dude, you haven't really watched film, because I don't see Russell Gage on these stat lines. I don't. So this one, is just a fun one. I enjoy it. I think it's a good one. I'm sure a lot of people are probably going to be like, what the heck about it, but it is what it is. I mean, hey, Baker responded in the way you would want your QB to respond. Baker just continues to prove that he's a great leader, man. He continues to prove that he can roll with the punches, and he's going to try to take care of business against the Detroit Lions, even after a jab here from Chauncy Gardner-Johnson. So what do you guys think about this? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. I would love to hear it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you guys all enjoyed. And as always, I'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.